How's it going, everybody? Thank you very much. I always appreciate you watching. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to another classic movie review. This is my review of one of my favorite sequels, one of my favorite action movies. Came out in the late 80s, the sequel to 1987's Lethal Weapon 2 from 1989. Stars Mel Gibson, Danny Glover returning as Sergeant Riggs and Sergeant Murtaugh. And you also have the addition of Joe Pesci as Leo Getz in this one. Once again, the great Richard Donner comes back to direct. The late Richard Donner directed all four Lethal Weapon films. Very sadly, he passed away in 2021. I believe he was in his 90s. But Richard Donner was one of my personal favorite directors. I really miss him behind the camera. He made some great movies like The Goonies, Superman, The Omen, Scrooged, 16 Blocks, Maverick, and he worked a lot with Mel Gibson. He also did Conspiracy Theory. And when this came out, it was around 89. I was about 6 years old. I was already pretty well versed in action movies after watching movies like RoboCop, Predator, Commando, Cobra, Die Hard. The first Lethal Weapon movie slipped by my radar because I was about maybe 3 when it came out. But when this one came out, I was a little bit older, so this one was the first one that I got to see. I remember my dad had the VHS copy of it back in the day, and I enjoyed this movie so much that one night I came across the first one on Cinemax, and from that point on I became a huge fan of these characters. Riggs and Murtaugh, Mel Gibson and Danny Glover tearing up the streets in LA, taking down bad guys, and every now and then Riggs has to get a little crazy to do it, but that's part of the fun. The first movie establishes the characters very well and has a lot of action, but the second movie really already has all the great setup already, kind of all the groundwork laid by the first one, and so by the time you get to the second movie, you get much more action, and you get a lot of fun character moments with the addition of the Leo Getz character played by Joe Pesci. This time around, instead of having to tangle with ex-CIA trained killer mercenaries, Riggs and Murtaugh piss off a South African diplomat played by Joss Ackland in the role of Arjun Rudd. Way back in the day, Joss Ackland played D'Artagnan's father in the 1973 version of The Three Musketeers, and he also pops up in movies like The Hunt for Red October, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and plays the main bad guy in one of my personal favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, Nowhere to Run. He always makes for a good bad guy, and Riggs and Murtaugh have a really hard time trying to nail him because he's a bad guy with diplomatic immunity, and so that kind of raises the stakes a bit. There are some really awesome action sequences all throughout this movie. The movie opens up with a great car chase, with them having to go on a car chase in Murtaugh's wife's car, which gets damaged, of course, and so all throughout these films, something in Murtaugh's is getting damaged, whether it's his car or his house. His house is always getting messed with in each of the movies in one way or another. This first sequel in the series also marks the first time that they reveal that the character of Riggs has a unique talent regarding his shoulder, because his character in the past apparently had it dislocated, and now he can do it at will, but when he has to pop it back in the socket, it always looks pretty damn painful, and Gibson is always very good at selling that. And in this first sequel, they do a very good job at also fleshing out more of his backstory that they kind of hint at in the first movie regarding his wife that passed away and all the trauma that kind of turned him into that renegade, kind of loose cannon cop that we met him as in the first one. In this one, he's a bit more humbled, a little bit more chill after spending more time with Murtaugh's family. He's a bit more domesticated by the second movie, but he still has that crazy wild side. This one also has one of the best scenes in the entire series. There's a moment in the movie where Murtaugh is on the toilet and discovers that if he gets off the toilet, then kablooey. And when Riggs shows up, it's kind of turned into a little bit of a joke, but it doesn't change the fact that he's sitting on a bomb, and so even though it's played a little bit for laughs because he is on the can, it's still very suspenseful in the way they have to deal with the bomb. Honestly, I get a little bit choked up when I think about that scene because it's a great moment between our two main characters. Throughout the series, there are moments of real bonding between Riggs and Murtaugh, and every now and then there are those moments that really feel really genuine and heartfelt, and it's because, Danny Glover and Mel Gibson give these characters their all, and so you're really invested in the bromance throughout the whole series. Now, the first Lethal Weapon has a darker and more serious tone compared to all the subsequent sequels to follow, but with the second film, they really do amp up the comedy, but not to the detriment of the action. The action is kind of doubled down on. You get a lot more action than the first movie, and so the comedy kind of balances out really nicely with the action. Plus, this one also goes you could say a bit darker in the first one in some ways. From Lethal Weapon 2 and on, director Richard Donner would find ways to inject a bit of social commentary into each film, with the second one putting a bit of a spotlight on apartheid. The third one does that with gun violence and guns landing into the hands of our youth. The fourth one deals with a bit of human trafficking, and I think that's something that kind of sets these movies apart from a lot of generic action movies out there. These, even though they entertain and really thrill us, they also kind of inform us a bit. The movie has a really great, explosive, and exciting finale. A lot of slam, bang, action, a lot of thrills. Gets really emotional actually towards the end. And this is a movie that I definitely recommend. You got to watch the first one, then go into the sequel, and then, of course, finish out the series. But all these movies are a lot of fun. Mel Gibson and Danny Glover tear up the screen. Lethal Weapon 2 from 1989, I give it 3.5 stars. This is a movie that you can definitely find on streaming, but you guys know me, I'm a hard copy kind of guy. I got my collection right here with all 4 films on Blu-ray, and it's a pretty damn cool collection with a lot of cool special features and extras. And yeah, you can see there an image on the back of our 2 heroes, Riggs and Murtaugh. Lethal Weapon 2 from 1989. Look out for it. Check it out. Thank you all very much for watching this classic movie review. I always appreciate it. If you're into this kind of thing, if you're into movies, if you're into classics, if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications on more reviews from me coming out pretty soon. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for all your support. I very much appreciate it. And just look out for the next one. Take care of each other. Peace out. Till next time. God bless.